Uned-Derecho, video clase.
Hello, today we're going to speak about fake news. It's Module 4, Privacy and Data Protection, and in particular in this lesson, Lesson 4, we're going to speak about fake news as one of the things that worries us in the 21st century and one of the challenges we have to face in the society of the 21st century. So, fake news. Is fake news a new phenomenon? Well, fake news is a kind of misinformation that has always existed, but which in the 21st century has taken on new forms and is hugely magnified by information technologies and the ubiquity of social networks. So then how can we distinguish serious news from fake news, which would be an important thing to be able to do? Well, fake news on the web is a discourse genre that in form, from the linguistic point of view, appears to be normal journalistic discourse, but which nevertheless has its own distinctive linguistic and mainly sociopragmatic features, as we have explained in an article we published very recently. So, for instance, one of the features is the use of sensationalistic headlines and words, the use of semantic prosody. This means that sometimes, they use a lot of negative words altogether in the same sentence or in the same paragraph, and in that way they are affecting your emotions and your stance and what you feel about the news because of that use of negative words, for instance. Or and mainly what they do, because sometimes you do not distinguish fake news because of the language per se, but because of the fact that they are manipulating the reader's stance and emotions by means of the triggering of deceptive inferences and such as fallacious presuppositions or emotional implicatures. So fake news, then, is a deceiving kind of infotainment which entertains the audience irrespective of its being ethical or based on reliable sources. So it's not exactly the same as what we call infotainment, which is a mixture of information and entertainment. And so that's why I have coined the term in-fake-tainment, because, in fact, here, the fabricators of fake news are not really concerned with truth. And so look at this example, for instance. This is a very, very, typical example of fake news. This was Trump reported dead on fedsalert.com, shared on Facebook. So how is the reader manipulated here? Well, you see the picture is Donald Trump dead this morning from a fatal heart attack. And what happens if you don't like Trump? You want to believe it's true because, the headline claiming that the politician we hate is doing something even worse than we imagine, or, as in this case, he's reported dead. So what do readers do? They indulge themselves, bolstering their feelings of anger and righteousness by clicking on, reading and sharing the fake news article, thereby reaching audience numbers which were unthinkable only 20 years ago. And this is the problem with fake news nowadays, that they are spread all over the media, and you have in a very short period of time, you have like 1 million readers of a piece of news which is not true, or at least it's been manipulated and it's fake. So, but what is fake news? And here is, the million-dollar question. Is it just news that is false? No, because fabricators of fake news play with variables such as human emotions. It's not just lies. No, it's not just a lie. It's a more complicated thing. So, because they play with the emotions of the readers, the shared knowledge between journalists and audiences, the different dimensions of language and discourse. And in most cases, fake news is not totally false, as I said, but rather a distorted version of something that really happened, or a manipulated account of true facts. And here we come to the concept of post-truth. By post-truth we mean various forms of postmodernist skepticism which deny that we can have any reliable access to an objective reality. So Harsing has defined post-truth as sometimes posited as a social and political condition whereby citizens or audiences and politicians no longer respect truth, but simply accept as true what they believe or feel. And Muletism, who is a Spanish journalist, he has added that they accept it even when they consciously know that reality is being faked. So that the reader, let's say, accepts to believe whatever they feel like, or whatever is in tune with their feelings or with their beliefs. So Laser et al. Have defined fake news, 21st century fake news, broadly as fabricated information that mimics news media content in form, but not in organizational process or intent. And Dance has defined it as intentionally factually incorrect news that is published to deceive and misinform its reader. Now, what are the types of fake news? We have three broad categories, according to Barclay in his article of 2018. We have mercenary fake news, whose main objective is making money. That is to say, they make you click. It's what they call the clickbait articles with sensationalistic headlines which have a flimsy connection with the actual content of the article. The second type would be fake news with an agenda. In this case, they are created to promote a specific social or political agenda. Here, the typical example is conspiracy theories, political theories. And then the third type is satirical fake news, which are a different kind because, in fact, they are not fake news. They are intended to, if they are satirical, the intention is that the reader understands that it is not true or that they are being satirized. And they are, of course, satirical humor stories, in many cases including a political or social commentary. Examples of satirical fake news sites are The Onion in the States or El Mundo Today here in Spain. But this third category has a danger, and it is the fact that despite being satirical, it can be misunderstood as serious by certain readers. Then which are the topics of fake news? Well, let's say the prototypical example are the articles that favored or attacked either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump during the 2016 U.S. presidential election. And politics in general is a topic, conspiracy theories, as we said, health. Here we have, for instance, the articles about the supposed dangers of vaccination, or, fake news about celebrities and royals, racist messages, paranormal theories, or practically anything else that could interest the public at large. So it is important to see that, well, in journalistic discourse, there's always persuasion. But we have to distinguish persuasion from manipulation. So in serious news, ideally, the journalists use the positive kind of persuasion, that is to say, the kind of persuasion that builds credibility by using logical arguments and appealing to emotions that will clarify an issue. But in fake news, what we find is a negative kind of persuasion that appeals to emotions that undermine reliable understanding. And that's why here we talk about manipulation, because they want to manipulate your feelings, your stance, what you think about something, and they don't care about whether the sources are true sources or whether they are telling the truth or not. So the challenges that we face in the 21st century when we have the phenomenon of fake news and what to do with it and how to combat it, I would say. First of all, we should be able to identify reliable sources of information and not trust any source that comes on the internet. That's a tough task, in fact. Some journalists have told me that it is difficult even for them to identify reliable sources of news. Then also the identification, it would be important to be able to identify the discourse strategies used to manipulate the audiences. And here I would advise you to think of inferences, what they want to transmit or to convey, the meanings they want to convey through inferences, and that they want you to infer via implicature or presupposition things that are in tune with their beliefs, and so they want to make you believe what they believe or what they want you to believe because they have these mercenary objectives. And so we should try to avoid the marketization. This is a term used by Fairclough. He used early in 1995. He spoke about the marketization of the media in the tension between information and entertainment, and also the journalists, or some journalists, thirst for easy financial rewards. Also avoid the confusion between information and opinion. One thing is information, another thing is opinion, your opinion of things. And then also the use of information as mere merchandise. So some possible actions, some things we could do in order to avoid this. First of all, spectators should be educated to be less indulging and more critical towards what they accept as reliable news. Another possible action is the reconsideration of the role of the journalistic profession in 21st century democratic countries. Regulation of the journalistic profession, the creation also of a protocol for the identification of fake news based on ethical, legal, and of course also linguistic discursive criteria. So you will need linguists also to work on this. And another possible action would be the recognition of the analysis of media discourse as an important element within contemporary research. Analysis also of the responsibility involved in the management of public media. So of course, this has been a very, very succinct presentation about fake news, because there would be many, many more things to talk about it, but this is all for now, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.